What is going on, guys? It's Crazy Mook here, bringing you another maintenance video. This one was requested to me, and it's how to change the spark plug on the Honda CBR125. Now this is really easy and shouldn't take any more than 5 minutes. Now there are a few places to check what spark plug your bike needs, and this is in maintenance manuals such as the Haynes manual, and that can be found probably right near the front. There you go, there's the specifications for the spark plugs. You've got the standard spark plugs here, and also for continuous high-speed use, and I recommend putting those ones in because if you're going to be using dual carriageways for long periods of time like I do, you're going to be doing 70 miles an hour at like 9,000 revs, and it gives you a peace of mind just knowing that you've got one of these spark plugs in here. Another place you could find it is inside your owner's manual. Now, not all bikes do come with all the logbooks and paperwork, so there are a few places you'd be happy to know where you can find this information. There you go, on page 69 it says, and it's all exactly the same. Another place you could find it is on the internet. You could type it into good old Google, or you could find a Honda CBR owners forum. I'm sure they'll happily give you the information. Or lastly, you could get the information from taking the old spark plug out, and as you can see there, if it'll focus, you've got the code and make on the old spark plug. Now this is the old spark plug that I got with the bike, and I changed it for an NGK continuous high speed one, and I've kept it because the electrode gap is still within the specification, and it says here that you should check the spark plug every 2,500 miles and change it every 5,000 miles. So if you're going to be doing a check, what you're going to be needing is a feeler gauge such as this one, and what your manual says is that the gap should be between 0.7 and 0.8 millimeters. So what you want to be doing is, let me just set you down here, there is your electrode gap there, and that sits upside down, so it's going to be in the engine, and you've got your piston going up and down here, and so yeah, taking the feeler gauge and measuring that gap, I'll try 0.8. There you go, perfect fit. So this is still very usable, and if you've got damaged porcelain or anything like that on here, you can always go into Google and try typing into something like a spark plug diagnostic chart or something. I'm sure something like that will be suggested to you as you type it in, and you can always check the condition if you've got oil around there or white deposits, and it'll tell you exactly what's going on in your engine. So it's always worth checking it and having a look online to see the condition of your spark plug against that chart. Now before you take the old one out, you need to have something to replace it with, so we are going to go to a local shop and we are going to go and buy a new one. So yeah, and if you don't have any of these manuals or anything to check what spark plug you should have, they'll always have a little book by the side of the spark plugs giving you the exact same information. So yeah, I mean, you should have plenty of places where you can find this information. So let's get to it. So now in Halfords, as you can see, they've got a little book here which states right at the end, but they've got the wrong one. It says CR8E. The ones we're after are CR9Es, and another one you can get are NGK Iridium spark plugs, which look like this. I have no idea why you'd want them. Or you can get laser Iridiums, or I don't know. But I will go for what I know, and I will go for the bog standard CR9Es NGKs. There you go. That's the ones you're going to want unless you've got DENSOs. I'll put the codes and things in the description. Now we've got to go and fit it. So I'll see you guys back in the garage. Okay, so the tools you're going to need for this job are really simple, and you should have in a basic toolkit. You've got a Phillips screwdriver, which is the cross-shaped one there, which is to remove the fairing off the bike. You've got a spark plug socket, which is not an ordinary socket. It is deeper to accommodate for the actual spark plug. I don't know if you guys can tell, but just to show you guys, that's your ordinary socket that you'd find. And I'm trying to do this one-handed. Oh, and it's rolling away. It doesn't even reach See, it's pointing at the top, so that'll actually fit in there nicely, like so. And you're going to need the spark plug you're going to be changing. That's your new spark plug. And if you're going to be checking rather than changing, you're going to need a feeler gauge, one with the two thicknesses of 0.7mm and 0.8mm, and that is it. Really simple tools. Okay, so we're back and we've got our new spark plug, and it's worth mentioning, I don't know whether you have to change the spark plug on a warm or cold engine, so I have left it to cool down. I've left it for 3 hours, almost exactly actually. So now you're going to, what you want to do is, before you actually take any of the fairing off, is let's just position you down there a little bit, is with your new spark plug, if we can just take it out of the box here, and the whole thing cost me, there's usually a bit of cardboard that goes over the top of that, so you don't really need it. Before you go and change it, make sure with your spark plug socket that you've actually got the correct size, otherwise you could risk damaging it. So there you go, how's that good first guess? So yeah, right, now what you want to do is you want to remove this cowling here. You can, well, you can see there's your cylinder head and there's the spark plug and the HT lead. So just to make it more accessible, we're going to take off these 4 screws. There's one here, one under the indicator, one down here and another right next to it. Really couldn't be simpler, nice and accessible. And you just use your Phillips screwdriver just to undo those, and they are very accessible, so should be no worries here. There are also 2 grommets on the back side here, one that goes into the frame of the actual bike and another one which goes into the radiator. Just going to put the screws down somewhere safe. So what you want to do is give them a good old tug, that's what she said. One that comes out of the being firm but not rough. There you go, just like that. And as you can see, the grommets, 1, 2, and then they just slotted on here and here. Alright, let's get on with it. There we go, we have nice access available here. So what you want to do is, it's worth noting as well, with this single cylinder you only have to buy 1 spark plug, obviously, so it makes it really nice and cheap. And so there you go, there's your cylinder, and you want to pull this HT lead off, which is just a cap, and there you go, and there is your old spark plug. So if you get your socket, and just, this could be a little bit tricky camera wise, but I will push on nonetheless. So that just slots on over the top. Oh, where are we? There we go. And yeah, just undoes. Make sure you push it down all the way, and yeah, that's it. Let's grab you guys here a minute. Okay, so as you can see, that is now coming out. There you go, bellissimo. And where are we? That doesn't look in too bad condition. Showed up against the white wall, but it's irrelevant in checking it anyway, because we are going to be replacing it with this one. And you want to be really careful when screwing it in, because if you cross thread it, that's it. Instead of just bunging it straight into the socket and trying to tighten it in, just do the first few threads by hand, and just until it starts biting and you're sure you're not cross threading it, and then start doing it up with the socket. Okay, so hopefully you guys are securely mounted, and now we're just going to screw it in by hand, if this HT lead does not get in the way. And That feels alright to me. Get out of the way, please. Where can I put you? I just want to tuck it away somewhere. There you go, that'll do. So, you know, you should be able to put very light pressure on turning and it goes in really easily. So that's how you know if you... I mean, you should be able to feel if it starts cross-threading because you have to put more pressure on it for it to actually screw in. So I'm just going to tighten it in as far as I can. Okay, so now once that's in, you push the HT lead onto the top. There we go. It's nice and tight. There you go. Sorted. You have been. And if you want to, you can start it up just to see if it works. I'll get the key out. There you go. So there you have it. So that's it. You put the fairing back on and job done. Okay, so to get this back in, what you want to do is you want to push this fairing in and then against the grommets, push it into the grommets, and also make sure that this little clip here is on the inside of this lower fairing here. There's actually a slot for it. I'll show you guys. Just that little slot there. You want to make sure it slots in nice and perfectly so it sits flush with the rest of the bike. And then push the grommets in, making sure they are lined up. There you go. And as you can see, there we go. So as you can see, this all sits nice and flush, and it will tighten up properly once we have the screws in. Which is just reversal of the removal. Does that make sense? I don't know, just do the screws back up. I never understand that saying, well, reversal of the removal. It's not really, is it? Because when you're taking stuff off, you're just breaking it off. Whereas when you're trying to get parts back on, you know, you're not breaking it. You're just, you know, putting it back on. So if you're taking something off, it usually means you're going to be replacing it. Well, not the fairing. It's just stupid. So there you go, nice and hand tight. Chuck the screwdriver away. Job done. I hope you learnt how to replace the spark plug in the Honda CBR125R. And please remember to rate, comment and subscribe.